And we're live right now.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hello everyone. Have you ever I'm gonna try something else. Have you ever thought that maybe you don't have control over yourself or the world around you, and that maybe it's guided and controlled and possibly dictated to you
By the world's elite?
elite?
Yes.
I like we always hear this Davos stuff going on, right?
Yeah, the very highly predictive nature.
Yeah. Well, the whole you will own nothing and you'll be happy and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think about that. That what
Yeah.
if? And arguably, maybe they're not all bad, or maybe they're in a gray.
I don't know. There is an argument that could be had that perhaps there are some of these groups, clubs, clandestine organizations
Yeah.
that do good, but I would like, if any of our listeners know of any, to just throw them out there.
Well, let's go with, and we're going to talk about them later, but like the Illuminati,
Yes.
which the Illuminati broke religious hold over the over Europe, and then it spread over here. It allowed us to have a technological revolution that made life so much better than religion ever did or ever would have. Well, I can't say that. I just think that it has offered more.
Yeah, perhaps. And I would say that I have a tendency to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I like to think that people start out good, and then it just sours somehow. Maybe it's money, maybe it's power,
Or maybe
it's the ancient mysterious rituals they include and they all become possessed. I don't know.
What if they see an impending crisis that they try to head off? I'm playing devil's advocate right now.
Yes. It's hard to say. So today we're talking about highly secretive groups of people that like to keep the knowledge of what they're doing and what their plans are to themselves, and they practice these clandestine practices, and in a lot of cases they also participate in ancient rituals.
Yes. So you've got a few on your to chat about list.
I do.
All right,
what
you got? What's first one on the list? And we do have some news today, because I've got some news that is, it's going to be fun.
So we could argue, and historians would back us up, that for as long as we've had recorded history, there have been these groups. And one of the oldest, and I would say probably most notable, would be the Knights Templar.
Yeah, the Knights Templar. They've got some really interesting history and interesting outcome for them, and a lot of intrigue surrounding them.
Yeah, they were a military order that was founded in 1118 when Hughes de Payens, who was a French knight, created this poor fellow soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, or the Knights Templar for short. It was headquartered at Temple Mount in Jerusalem. The members pledged to live a life of chastity, obedience, and poverty. This is where I think a lot of our newer secret societies lost the plot, because these guys they pledged to live poverty. They abstained from gambling, alcohol, and even swearing.
It makes you wonder if they actually did, though.
No. No. They did not. That's just what they pledged.
Yeah.
Now we're not even hiding it. I mean, when you see these things that, like, Alex Jones went to the Grove,
Oh, yeah.
like, they burned an effigy of a human and worshipped an owl god.
The cremation of care.
Yes.
And it's not just an effigy of a human. It's an effigy of a child.
Yes, a small human.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
So the Knights Templar were known more for their military prowess and moral lifestyle, or proposed moral lifestyle. However, even though they pledged to live poverty, they became one of the most wealthy and powerful forces in Europe after setting up a bank. See, this, I think they started out with true good intention.
Well,
and then they set up a bank that allowed pilgrims to deposit money in their home countries and withdraw it in the Holy Land.
and that is their downfall, but we'll get into that here in just a minute.
Yes.
Now, granted, I'm just going to be shooting off the hip. Betsy is the, what would you call her? The studied person on this.
I don't know about that.
But yes, there's a lot of interesting history when it comes to the Knights Templar, but go on about it.
So their influence maintained pretty low prowess until about 1139, which we're only talking 21 years. So in 21 years, that's a pretty successful group. For 21 years, they grew to be this, I mean, their influence in Europe swelled. Now, Pope Innocent II issued a papal bull exempting them from paying taxes.
Yes.
So it was like a decree. He decreed them exempt from paying taxes. So, and it starts.
Well, and there's a reason he did that.
Well, he wanted their support.
Well, and also he owed him money.
Oh. How convenient.
Yeah, so what they did is they set up the first international bank.
Yes.
So what you could do is you could drop money off, and you could drop money off with them in, say, France or Germany or wherever, and then travel to the Middle East with just enough funds to get you there, but not like your holdings that you wanted to go down there to start up commerce or maybe even move and live. And they had a bank there, and you would pull in there, and then they would allow you to withdraw. And so it was the first international bank. And what it did is it kept money secure. Because
you weren't traveling with it.
You weren't being hit by bandits, or roving, I don't know, bad guys, whatever. But yeah.
So at the apex of their power, the Knights Templar owned the island of Cyprus.
Yes.
A fleet of ships, and they even lent money to kings.
Yes.
However, not all kings were happy customers.
No.
Because when we're talking lend money, I would assume that there was a cost.
Well, they would, the kings would borrow money to, say, go to war or commit to a crusade so that the royalty could be cleared in the eyes of God and things like that. And the Knights Templar were more than happy to lend them money.
Yeah. So when the Crusades came to an end after the fall of Acre, the Knights Templar withdrew to Paris, where they focused on their banking endeavors. So they kind of moved away from their military efforts and all that poverty and abstinence from swearing and things. And they moved to Paris, where they focused on just banking. Now, on October 13th, 1307, King Philip of France, whom the Knights Templar had denied additional loans, had a group of knights arrested and tortured until they made false confessions of depravity. So everything starts to kind of fall apart because I'm sure in their dealings, they were trying to be protective of their own interests as well.
Well, let's go through some of their dealings or some of their. Now, they say they made false accusations of depravity, but let's
Yes.
pretend that they were real.
Yeah.
Let's say what some of these were. Like they used the Solomon rings to summon demons. That they did witchcraft studies with the Arabian jinn. That they did the kissing of the tail under the goat.
Oh, yes, yes. The
And this was-
famous tail kissing.
Now, the French king owed them a lot of money. And he actually went to the Pope, and the Pope gave the French king permission to arrest them.
So, because they only answered to the Pope because of that decree.
Yeah, but the Pope was looking at a kingdom being in his
popedom.
A kingdom own him a favor versus, and this was the largest kingdom at the time, versus a banking system, which, if the cards were played right, the banking system could revert back and be restarted again by, say, the church.
Oh, yes.
Or by, say, France.
Yes. Yeah. So in 1309, as the city of Paris watched, dozens of Knights Templar were burned at the stake for their alleged crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Under pressure from the French crown, Pope Clement formally dissolved the order in 1312. So a couple hundred years, give or take, and their wealth was redistributed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they say. So it was redistributed.
To the royal coffers, of course.
Yes.
Just like how we redistribute here. You know?
Yes. When they take your taxes, it's redistributed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So rumors that the Knights Templar guarded artifacts that's been the conspiracy since then, was that part of their job was to guard these ancient artifacts. One of them was the Holy Grail,
Yep, the Holy Grail.
the Shroud of Turin.
The spear, the nails, anything to do with Jesus.
Yes.
That's what is claimed. They claim they found this, and that maybe they did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been postulated, what is the Holy Grail? Because a lot of people...
I've seen Indiana Jones. It's a wooden cup.
So
Drink from the golden one, it melts your face.
it's a wooden cup.
Yeah. Yeah, straight up.
Yeah. So, the Knights Templar is synonymous with secret societies. There was initiations you had to go to become a part of them.
Mm-hmm.
There were rituals you had to take part in on a regular basis to remain in them.
Mm-hmm.
And your allegiance had to be pledged to them. There was also this air of mystery in the sense that if you were out of the club, you didn't know what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So they fit into a secret society quite easily.
Yes, they did.
Then we've got the Freemasons.
Ooh.
Now, we could do an entire series
Yes. Now, I do have
on the Freemasons.
I do have a couple of friends who are Masons. So this part of the show is for you, gentlemen.
Yes. So,
should we go through a news story real quick?
yeah, let's do a news story.
Are you ready, Betsy?
I don't know.
You're probably
Sometimes I'm not ready.
not. You're probably not for this one. So,
No.
headline. This comes from Neoscope. Man horribly injures penis after injecting it with insulation foam.
His or someone else's?
His own. He was trying to cure his ED.
Okay.
I dug into this quite deep, and he squirted a whole can in there. They had to cut his bladder open and make a new exit hole for his liquid excrements. They put it on his grundle. Let's just say that. That's the closest they could get to it. Anyways, in a medical story pulled straight from the nightmares of every blank haver, a man accidentally got his genitalia.
I was going to say, don't skip over accidentally. He slipped and fell onto the little nozzle.
Now, in another story I read, it sounds like him and his his significant other both were in on this. But anyways, a man accidentally got his genitalia injected with insulation foam in an attempt to cure his ED. Researchers published the sordid case study in the Journal of Urology Case Reports. It details how a 45-year-old American man attempted to cure his ED by inserting various objects into his urethra.
Oh, no.
Eventually, he and his partner decided to insert a straw attached to the can of insulation foam spray into it. Now, the foam spray comes with a straw nozzle.
It does.
For aim.
Not for this purpose.
No. And this stuff expands a lot. It expands a lot. There's lots of uses for this if you need structural integrity under stuff.
Oh, no.
But that's when the partner inadvertently pressed the button deploying
it gets
the
hot,
foam.
too.
So it sounds like they didn't mean to squeeze it. They were just trying to use the straw as a stimulant.
Listen, there are straws that come in all shapes and sizes.
Well,
you can buy one that's not attached to spray foam.
Or you cannot go to the point where you need a straw to obtain stimulation. You know, maybe seek being a monk for a couple of years, reset yourself. I think the minute you crossed over into the territory of when you're inserting into there, it's time to sit down and rethink your life. Maybe some deep meditation, a retreat, a live, laugh, go away situation, if you will. Anyways.
This would burn so bad. It would hurt so bad. Oh.
Yeah. That's when the partner inadvertently pressed the button deploying the foam.
Oopsie.
According to the case study, the spray then filled up his bladder.
Well, yes.
And urethra. And
it is a closed environment, and that foam has to go somewhere.
If that wasn't enough horror, the man waited 3 weeks before seeking medical attention. He's lucky he did not die. During that time, he had difficulty urinating, call me shocked, and experienced pain due to the hardened shards of insulation in his bladder and genitalia. By the time, 3 weeks, by the time he did go to the emergency room, he was urinating blood and feeling a great amount of pain. Luckily, doctors were able to remove the foam from his bladder. Unluckily, the foam in his genitalia anchored itself in the narrow passageway of his urethra. So the doctors had to perform a perineal urethrostomy.
Urethrostomy.
I just soared right through that one. This procedure horrifyingly involved cutting into the area between his anus and his...
it's the taint.
Yeah, it's the taint. The grundle. And remove the hardened form.
No.
The operation ultimately went well, or at least as well as, genitalia surgery can go. The man was later discharged with a catheter to help him urinate, and you get a straw forever. The report...
You wanted one. Now you've got one.
The report also added that if he wants to go on and have reconstructive surgery on his injury, he would likely need to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. Yes. He should have sought this out prior to this. Say, honestly, 10 years ago, this would be a precautionary measure, as it's often the case that patients who come in with things stuck in their urethra suffer from mental illness.
Oh no.
Who's the logic shrink who wrote this? I mean, that's, if you're putting stuff in there, we got other issues we got to talk about. I mean, we've got to sit you down on a couch and ask you about your mom, and that'll take up 3 or 4 weeks of daily visits.
That's spray foam. So it's a chemical reaction that happens when it's dispensed. And it heats
Yes.
up and expands and would be absolutely dreadfully painful.
Well, and it would expand inside of you
Yes.
and just really cause a lot of havoc. I mean,
Oh, no.
I don't know how you. I don't know. All right, King of Wakamundo.
How are you tonight?
Did I hit it?
You're good.
All right. I remember when I was in elementary, there was a big scandal in the late 80s of tunnels under schools, and many politics were involved. Now,
Are we talking satanic panic?
yes, we did. Our very first shows were about this, and we're going to have to redo them because we know nothing about podcasting now, and we knew less then. Our sound was...
It was awesome. It was tinny. It was classic.
I had a Folgers can,
Yeah.
obviously, to speak into. And I believe that you had a Lipton soup can.
Yes. It was a little tinny,
But
they were funny shows.
they were our kind of debuts. So we are going to revisit those soon. We're going to break them down. They're deep shows because, one, they're in living memory. You can find all sorts of information about them.
And two, now we know. Like,
Yeah.
it was true.
Well, that's the question. New stuff that's coming out because
Yeah.
a lot of people went to prison for it that were completely innocent. So it makes you wonder if other stuff was happening out. I don't know.
Look
I mean,
what I'm doing over here.
we have to dive into a super conspiracy on that one. That's just so deep. Anyways, let's go on. Let's do the
Freemasons.
the Freemasons.
So, first of all, we need to remember that 13, this is a pretty good percentage, of the 39 men who signed the U.S. Constitution were Masons.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George Washington, James Monroe, Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, and Paul Revere were all a part of this fraternal order.
Yep.
So who are Freemasons? Now, we can trace their roots back to the Middle Ages in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
a time when most craftsmen were organized into local guilds. So it's likely that's how this started. Was kind of a union, so to speak, where they would protect their own interests because they were local craftsmen.
Well, let me also break this down a little more. We're talking about a feudal system at the time. So under a feudal system, you belong to a lord. So let's say you're a farmer or a net weaver or a cobbler. You generally belong to the local lord, and so you would pay a percentage of your income would go to him. Sounds awful familiar right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you weren't allowed to just leave and move to a different town, You belonged to them.
Yeah, you weren't
You
allowed
had
to
to-
pursue your own interests.
You had to stay there, and during different times, you had to request from your lord or your whether you can get married, whether you can start a new venture, whether you can expand in any way, or had to go to him to beg for permission if you were contracting and not able to meet his needs. But Freemasons were a specialty. Masonry was a specialty. I mean, working with the rocks and the clays and how to do concrete and stuff. I mean, it was maybe not top secret, but kind of secret, And so Freemasons, they called them free because they didn't belong to a lord. They could freely travel, and the symbols and signs they had were so that not just anyone could show up in, say, any old town, say Munster, and say, "Oh yeah, I'm a Freemason."
Yeah. I'm
So the guild head would come out, and you would have to show yourself to him through handshakes and passwords and things like that, so that, one, it protected the Masons, and two, it protected any jobs that you may be coming to do there, because you don't want some knucklehead to come in and build a bridge, and then the bridge
and
collapses.
claim to be a part of your group.
Yeah, and he's got no experience, and he messes it up, and then you've got all that labor, all that work, and possibly injuries. So, yeah.
So they were commonly cathedral builders as a profession, and they would travel from city to city. Again, like you mentioned, they identified one another via signs for their trade, like the builder's square and compass and the Freemasonry's now iconic symbol. But also with all of these secret handshakes and sayings and things. The earliest reference to Masons is in the Regius poem, or what's called the Hallowell manuscript. It was published in 1390. But Freemasonry, as we know it today, was founded in 1717. So 4 London lodges merge to form England's first Grand Lodge, and Freemasonry took off. It was, like you mentioned, the really only free state.
Well, it was how you obtained freedom, as you would go and become an apprentice for a Mason, and then you would still probably pay taxes where you were, but you could travel, you could see other places, you could pursue different lifestyles, and you could move around and maybe gain some notoriety if where you are, say you're a cobbler in a little podunk town, you might end up just being that forever. But as a Freemason, you can move up and move other places and gain notoriety because of your availability to move.
Yes. So, Freemasonry is not a religion.
No, but it requires you to believe
But it requires you to believe in a supreme being.
Yes.
So, you can be of many different types of religions so long as you believe in a supreme being.
Believe in something. It doesn't have to be necessarily a deity, as I understand it. It just has to believe. It has to be kind of a higher power.
Yes. Or a grand architect, so to speak.
Oh, the Grand Mason.
Yes.
Mason Master. Mason Master 3000.
Now, Masonic temples are known for their secret rituals. I want to know. Now, I don't believe I could ever become a Freemason.
No, you got to be a gentleman.
Yes, it's a boys' club.
Maybe you should start a Lady Masons.
But ain't nobody got time for that. So, these secret rituals is what is thought to have brought the Freemasons into big conflict with the Catholic Church.
Well,
I don't know if it's that simple.
No, you've also got to go into, as the story goes, the Illuminati entered Masonry, and the Illuminati wanted to separate religion from it. And so that brought them in. And also, you just mentioned a minute ago that the Grand Lodge was started in England.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you remember the whole, we're leaving the church thing at England?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that. So it could have been that the Grand Lodge, which most of them may have been Catholics, but because they started in England and wanted to have a positive outlook there, they may have declared themselves as Anglican or Protestant.
And the Catholic Church has such a stronghold that really, still to this day, they attack anything that goes against that power structure.
They have backed off quite a bit lately. I think when you get a communist pope, it changes everything.
It turns it up a little bit.
Yeah, it just totally changes everything, and which is, it's fine. And, that's a whole nother show. Why does Central America have a predilection for communism? I don't know. We'll have to look into that one day.
So the church first condemned the Freemasons in 1738 and has gone on since then to issue around 20 decrees against them.
Yes. And a lot of that was the Illuminati getting involved.
Yeah. And it has become all-out war. So the Catholic Church condemns Freemasonry, and atheists are not welcome in Freemasonry.
They are not, but You have to have a higher belief.
Yes. So, are there Freemasons today? Yes. 100%?
I have a couple friends.
Yeah. Now, the church wasn't their only enemy. The secrecy of the Masons garnered such distrust. This is the problem with secret societies. If you're not in them, it is almost human nature to distrust them.
Yes.
If there's not this level of transparency where they say, these were the meeting minutes, this is where we met, this is who was present, these are our members, this is what they pay, then it almost immediately creates this distrust. And this distrust actually inspired America's first third party, the anti-Masonic Party.
Yes, the anti-Masonic Party.
Yeah. So you can find depictions of these Masonic rituals all over.
But are they the real
the
depictions?
internet? I don't know. I want to know.
Okay. You guys ready to hear something interesting?
Okay.
All right. I am going to actually show this on screen. This is in the Library of Congress. Okay.
Wow.
This is official in the library. This is a letter from George Washington to Reverend G.W. Snyder.
Okay.
Sir, many apologies are due to you for my not acknowledging the receipt of your obliging favor of the 22nd ult, and for not thanking you in an earlier period for the book you had the goodness to send me. I had heard much of the nefarious and dangerous plan and doctrines of the Illuminati.
Oh.
You know who the head of the Illuminati in the United States was?
Who?
Thomas Jefferson.
Oh.
But I never saw the book until you were pleased to send it to me. The same causes which have prevented my acknowledging the receipt of your letter have prevented my reading the book. Hitherto, namely, the multiplicity of matters which pressed upon me before, and the debilitated state in which I was left after. A severe fever had been removed.
It was
and
esoteric.
which allows me to add a little more now. Then thanks for your kind wishes and favorable sentiments. Except to correct an error you have run into of my presiding over the English lodges in this country. The fact is, I preside over none, nor have I been in one more than once or twice within the last 30 years. I believe, notwithstanding, that none of the lodges in this country are contaminated with the principles ascribed to the Society of the Illuminati. With respect, I am and see.
Wow.
So, now he's saying that this is George Washington writing a letter saying that he does not believe that the Illuminati is in any of the English lodges in the United States. But I don't know. There's a couple letters from the founding fathers about it.
Yeah, like
in the Library of Congress. So the Illuminati is not a new thing that we're just coming to.
No.
Now,
it's not a name that has been prescribed to this group as of late. They've always been called that.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we talked to Mandy last week, after the show was over, we had a little chat after that is super interesting and ties back into the Freemasons and religion. And because of where we are in our family, who we love dearly, we still have to ponder whether we're going to approach that.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
It could get yucky.
It could.
So these rituals are completely shrouded in secrecy, but have entered the public imagination in film and TV, and we're even on an episode of The Simpsons. Which doesn't surprise me.
Okay, then I've got another question. Did the Freemasons have these rituals before The Simpsons?
Or did The Simpsons predict a new ritual?
Yeah, I mean, let's just face it.
So membership is open to all males over the age of 21. women can join an associated group known as the Order of the Eastern Star. And I believe that is like that's like the support group for the men. Like we make the food.
Relief Society.
It's Relief Society.
Remember when you walk into the church? We both grew up Mormon. And you walk into any Mormon church, and on one wall, there's the first members of the Relief Society, which is a ladies' organization. Is there a scarier bunch of human beings on earth? You put me in a T hallway, right? Have me walking down a hallway, come to a T.
Yes, always.
Down one side is Jason, Freddie, Michael Myers. On the other side is any of the Relief Society matriarchs. I'm taking my chances heading down to Jason, Freddie, and Michael Myers. They are the scariest, toughest looking humans on earth. These ladies, I'm
their
telling
pictures are intentionally made to make them look
you,
matriarchal and
Mormons made barbed wire with their wise mouths. Those are some tough looking ladies. Anyways, go on.
So, aspiring members must ask to join and cannot otherwise be approached. All you got to do is ask. That's what they say.
Mhm.
All you have to do is ask.
And you know, and
why haven't you asked?
I've got guys.
Because you don't believe in a higher power.
It could be, but I might, but I've got guys who I am friends with who are members, and they are decent men. Yes, King of Weccomundo says Freemasons do have a women's. It's a separate group called North Star. I think he meant East Star, but yeah.
Yeah, you just can't be a Freemason. Dang it. So, the Freemasons adopted this...
Freemasonette?
We want to be the same these days.
Freemason?
What if I identify as a 21-year-old male?
Okay, now we're reaching some ground here. This is where we have to think about this.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot like that transgender swimmer, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
From Penn State. Went and competed, San Diego?
Mm-hmm.
Against another transgender swimmer. So the male to female competed against the male to female, or the female to male, and the female to male won.
I'm just saying.
Now, it could be they set up a conspiracy so they could say, see, told you. Or it could be that,
the female to male was just a better swimmer.
Or patriarchy always wins.
Could be.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter if it's adopted.
I'm telling you, if call yourself a man and maybe you win. I don't know. That's touchy subjects. I know what my opinion is, but I would rather withhold it and not try to impose that on anyone else. One, I'm not in swimming.
Yeah, it doesn't really affect
imagine
us.
a fat guy. Now, cannonballing, I might have something to say about that.
Cannonballers are swimmers too.
All right. If you know a Mason through lie to you and present themselves as good people, but will curse you or choose you as a way to use you. Now, see, that's a tough part. These two guys I know they're both decent guys. One of them I work with, and the other one does a veterans organization out here. They're both stand-up guys, good people. And that's not to say I don't think that any organization that doesn't declare itself evil will have 100% evil in it, even if that organization roots itself or higher ups as evil. Look at our government. I'm sure not everyone in our government is evil, but there are probably a substantial number of people in our government who do evil acts. Like, take a ride on an airplane to go molest little girls and, things like that.
So their symbol is widely known.
Mm-hmm.
It's the square and the compasses. The right angle of the builder's square is joined by a compass, which is like a central tool in geometry.
Yeah.
And it's represented by a G at the heart of the symbol. And some people say that represents God or the grand architect of the universe or whatever. Now, the view of the all-seeing eye as a Masonic symbol has been debated. Long before the Freemasons, Egyptians used the Eye of Horus, and the all-seeing eye appears repeatedly in Renaissance art as a symbol of Christianity and God's watchfulness. But organizations like the Philadelphia Federal Reserve claim Freemasons, Henry Wallace, and Franklin Roosevelt purposefully chose it when they redesigned the dollar bill in 1934.
Yeah. And the all-seeing eye is on the dollar bill.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else is on the dime? On the back of a dime is a little thing called a fascie.
I've heard of that.
It's a symbol for fascism.
Yes, I've heard of that. So, tons and tons of conspiracy theories surround the Freemasons.
Mm-hmm.
Some in part because of their members having then gone ahead and signed a constitution. And
now let's remember, the Constitution was a conspiracy that was signed in secret. They were sworn, the guys who signed it, before they went into that, I think it was a courthouse in Philadelphia, they swore themselves to secrecy at the door and then locked themselves in.
Correct. So,
You have to excuse me, I'm fighting something of a cold.
It's not a big stretch to imagine that these groups can become like these little hotbeds for evil.
I wonder if there's any evil in Tooele.
Well, we have a temple or a lodge.
We do. It's right over there.
Yes.
Yeah. But is there any evil?
I don't know.
That's the question. I don't think Tooele would have the bandwidth.
I don't think we're connected enough. The people who are a part, I'm not speaking ill of you. I just believe that a Freemasons lodge in, Podunk, Utah is not going to have the same reach as,
Could you imagine eyes wide shut out here? Walk into a barn, whole bunch of sheep in red dresses with masks on.
Yeah, they wear aprons and they get like to the 20th degree or the 80th degree or whatever.
I don't know. I've heard 13 is their top. It may depend on, you got the Scottish rites. And,
what have you got to do to get there? I don't know.
And of course you've got, is it Beauregard, who had a Masonic temple in Washington, D.C. He was a Confederate general. And there's a lot of conspiracy around him. And that's a show all by itself. That guy supposedly signed his Masonic temple over to Satan.
Well,
technically a higher power, I guess, but
now I have heard that you can worship Satan and be a Freemason because that would be considered a grand architect or a higher power, supreme being.
I know who I'm going to worship.
Who?
J-Lo.
J-Lo?
Yeah, Jennifer Lopez. She's a supreme being. She's like 50-something. Looks like she's 18.
I don't know if that makes her a supreme being.
I want to know what her diet is. Does she ever leave the gym?
Well, it's probably a diet of anesthetics and
Diuretics.
Botox.
Could be. Yeah. Anyways, go on.
So, Freemasons. The Illuminati is next on the list.
The Illuminati, and that's where we go to a news story, but that's where we touched off. I should have held on to that Library of Congress note until then.
Yes, the Illuminati.
Yes.
Oh.
I do have we're just going to chat about this a little loosely. I'm sure everyone's heard
The volcano.
Yeah, the volcano eruption in Hunga Tonga Ha'apai. Most of it, I think, was an underwater eruption, which caused it to have that huge sound blast that went with it, and it caused a tsunami.
A couple of the islands are still underwater. Yeah,
the islands are super flat. I think the highest point is something like 200 feet or something. Yeah, it's
We're thinking of you if you have family
are.
in Tonga.
And we have lots of friends around here
Yeah.
that are from Tonga, like born and raised there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite little mercenaries that the bishop sicked on me years ago was a Tongan kid. And he would just come over and want to look at my guns and hold them and take pictures with them.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I hope that everyone there,
They are such a loving culture and a welcoming culture,
Mm-hmm.
and we are really praying for you, because
Yes.
that's the destruction that has taken place over there. We still haven't even begun to measure.
Yeah. And have you watched the NASA satellite video of it?
Crazy.
It is insane.
It's like a nuclear bomb.
It looks like one. You just see a blast. You see the blast overpressure just leave it. And then you got videos of people on a beach and that shock wave hits them and like knocks them back.
Yeah.
And yeah. And there was a lot of guys that were out fishing that have been missing. Anyways.
Yeah.
So catastrophic eruption on January 15th. As seen in satellite images, only 2 tiny outcrops of rock now betray the beast lurking beneath the waves. But whether it happens in a week or years, the volcano will rise again. I guess this is a common thing.
Yeah, so those islands are built from volcanic eruptions.
And I think because this one, the volcano is actually underwater,
yeah,
which is why it has all that pressure above it.
Yeah, tons of power.
So I'm led to believe. I am. If you do a level, like you put a geologist at the top and then you follow that down, primate and all that stuff, and then you get to cockroach, I'm what the cockroach stands on that level of knowledge. This cycle of destruction and rebirth is the lifeblood of volcanoes like Hunga Tonga, Hunga Ha'apai. Ha'apai, I think that's how you say it. Which is just one of many that dot the kingdom of Tonga. Still, the tremendous energy of its latest explosion, which NASA estimated to be the equivalent of 5 to 6 million tons of TNT,
big,
is unlikely any seen in recent decades. Yeah, we would have heard of it.
Yeah.
The eruption sent a tsunami racing across the Pacific Ocean. It unleashed a sonic boom that zipped around the world twice. It sent a plume of ash and gas shooting into the stratosphere, some 19 miles high, with some parts reaching as far as 34 miles up. And perhaps most remarkable, all these effects came from only an hour or so of volcanic activity.
Yeah, so beyond the initial sonic boom, it continued to spew out water and lava and rocks and gas and this plume of dust, this volcanic dust, for only about an hour. But that was enough given its massive size. And this was unforeseen.
Yeah.
There was no prediction for this.
People were out carrying on their day, fishing
Yes.
that day. I mean, if we could have predicted it, we could have said, okay, everyone come inside, throw some sandbags on that facing beach, put some brakes in something. And it is a tragedy.
Yeah, they call them submerged giants, and there's lots of them.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one of them. But eventually that island will rise above the water again, because now it will just continue to bubble out lava, much like the Hawaiian Islands do, creating more land.
Yeah, and I hope that...
but we're thinking about you.
Yeah, we are. And, we have lots of close friends and neighbors who have family that are still there. So,
Yeah, this Utah has...
a substantial Tongan population.
We have a large Tongan population.
A large
in Utah.
Hawaiian population.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have a lot of Pacific Islander populations. That's due to missionary work, I think.
A lot of it,
mostly. We also have one of the first, maybe not one of the first, but we have an old Hawaiian village out in Skull Valley, Kanaka, that we need to probably do a show on one day because it's quite interesting.
It is kind of cool out there.
But yeah, anyways.
Illuminati.
Yes.
Founded by a professor, Adam Weishaupt, in Bavaria in 1776.
Adam Weishaupt. You know,
Yeah.
he's got a grandson that does an anti-Illuminati podcast.
He does?
Yes.
Oh, fall from grace.
Goes by the same name.
So it's said that he was pissed off at the power of the conservative Catholic Church and the Bavarian monarchy, and he sought to cast aside organized religion in favor of a new form of illumination through reason.
Okay.
So it was inspired by the spread of the Enlightenment movement across Europe.
Uh-huh.
And he drew upon ideas expressed by the Jesuits. He was a former member. The mysteries of the seven sages of Memphis, the Kabbalah, and the Freemasons. So he created this group because he was pissed at religion.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of taking note of this enlightenment that was happening across Europe. And he recruited heavily from the Freemasons.
He did. He got inside of the Freemasons.
Yeah. He infiltrated Masonic lodges in his quest to recruit. And his recruitment was he understood it. Like, he understood the assignment.
Mm-hmm.
He recruited some of the wealthiest and most influential men in Europe.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, well, as the story goes, we got a new story just come in from King of Wakamundo, and thank you. And we will talk about that in a second. Just pulling it up. But anyways, yeah, according to it, but what if because of the Illuminati, the Enlightenment was allowed to happen? The Enlightenment that tore the masses away from being property of the Lord. The Enlightenment that, spread a liberty mindset, maybe a little bit of Adam Smith in there and John Locke. Their ideas might have been carried by the Illuminati. I mean, let's face it. We have many satanic figures in history.
Oh, yes.
And in all the stories, those satanic figures gave us knowledge.
Yeah.
So we can name a few. Prometheus.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Obviously the serpent. So they gave us knowledge. They gave us freedom.
Yes.
And the church seem to want us, or may have seemed to want us at the time.
Organized religion requires power and control in order to stay organized.
Yeah, or infantilized.
Yeah, yeah.
They wanted us to be like children. I mean, we had a whole 30 years war that was fought, and Protestantism kicked off because a guy printed the Bible in German.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to think about. When before that, you had to go to a priest to have the Bible deciphered for you. And what kind of power does that give priests?
Interpreted.
Yeah.
For you.
Could the priest maybe be shady and say, you must sleep with me or you must hand over wealth to me to be good with God? It says it right here on page 6, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a lot to think about.
So members of the Bavarian Illuminati, or the kind of the origins of it, were referred to as perfectibilists. It's a hard word to say. That's a terrible word to call them.
Did we just say Bavarian?
Yeah, perfectibilists.
In Germany, hence, I mean, we've all seen the videos of people speaking German compared to English and Spanish and all that other stuff. It's a fully legitimate language that doesn't sound scary at all.
No.
I mean, I imagine if you married a German woman and she said, I loved you, you would pee a little bit.
My daughter always tells me, Mom, do you know how to say butterfly in German?
I've heard it, but it sounds
Schmetterling.
Yeah, it sounds scary.
It does sound scary.
And you probably have to growl while you do it.
You're such a beautiful Schmetterling.
Yeah. But anyways, go on.
So, get back to So they were broken up into 3 tiers, basically.
Mm-hmm. You had Perfectamundos, tier 1, and
So these tiers were divided by power. So they were tiers of increasing power and drawn from socialites, including noblemen like former Freemason Baron von Neig, writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe.
Van Gogh.
It's
not Van Gogh. It's
no,
Von Gogh.
Von Goethe. It's different Van Gogh. It's von Goethe. And all communication was in cipher, and members were given classical names. For example, Weishops was Spartacus.
Ooh.
They got club names.
That's a pretty cool name to start out with, too.
That's
Spartacus. Yeah, that's a pretty cool one.
I'm sure he gave it to himself. I'll be Spartacus.
Well, come on. I mean, when you start the club, you're
It'll be whatever you want. So this organization, the Illuminatis, flourished before being stamped out by Karl Theodor of Bavaria, who issued an edict making membership in this club, the Illuminatis, punishable by death.
Isn't it wild how religious factions went hard back then?
Yeah.
Like they went hard.
They were committed.
If anyone here, we should just do a show on it, on the Cathars.
Oh yeah.
Because when you read what the Catholics did to the Cathars, it was genocide.
Yeah.
Wiped a race or wiped a religion in France off the face of the earth.
An entire culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Killed them all. Women, children.
Now, these deaths, because there were deaths, the Illuminati were punished for being a member. They did not quell the gossip that there was still this clandestine kind of activity happening in Illuminati's name still. Let's
talk about this, because at the same time you had Adam Smith and John Locke and Voltaire. Voltaire was actually a Catholic priest. These guys wrote these treatises and papers and actually killed each other sometimes over this stuff. But they wrote it under a different name and didn't have it released till after they died. But all of these writings are what our modern liberties are based on.
Yeah. Now, they've been linked. Conspiracy theorists have linked the Illuminati to everything from the French Revolution to the assassination of JFK and everything in between. They, if there was an unexplainable pattern of events, somewhere there was a member of the Illuminati.
Yeah. That became kind of a catch-all.
Yeah.
A lot like right now, we're seeing catch-alls come out from government right now that, seem to happen. I think that's a tool that is used by those in power to maintain power. But that's just my personal feelings. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So then we're moving forward in time. Now we've got the Order of Skull and Bones.
Oh.
Founded at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut in 1832.
Yep. But before we do that, news story that King of Hueco
Oh, Flava Flav.
Okay. So I'm going to send this. Now, Flava Flav is one of my favorite human beings ever.
Stop.
He really is.
Oh, stop it.
He really, I just like the guy. You know why? He doesn't care.
No.
His life is...
I don't think it's that he doesn't care. I think he does things intentionally for...
Sure. And I think he doesn't care. That big clock he wore around his chest, that was fantastic.
I didn't even know Flava Flav was still alive. He's 62 years old.
Yes, and... what was it? 10 years ago, he did a dating Flava Flav show.
Yes, I can't.
Or maybe 20 years ago now, because I'm old too. Anyways, he escaped near-death experience when a giant boulder struck the side of his car on Tuesday. The rapper, 62, was driving from Las Vegas to Los Angeles when rain caused a massive boulder to tumble down a cliff in La Tuna Canyon.
I didn't know there was such a place.
We have a sardine canyon.
We have Sardine.
Yeah, so Tuna Canyon.
Tuna Canyon.
And hit the right side of his car, his rep told Page 6. Flav, I like how this guy's personal with him. Flav, like they're homeboys.
Flav.
Temporarily lost control of his vehicle, his rep tells us, but luckily found his way back onto the road and pulled over. As pics from the incident reveal, if he had driven his car just a few inches in another direction, the boulder could have killed him. Thank God he survived and is okay, although he is a bit emotionally shaken up, I bet, his rep told Page 6, adding that Flav is physically safe. Now, we're showing the picture on there.
Do you know what his real name is?
I don't want to know. Don't ruin this for me.
William Jonathan Drayton.
William Jonathan Drayton.
Ah.
So he's got a nice Audi, and
he's worth about $2 million.
To explain it to you, it come down and it wrecked the hood, the light, the bumper, the fender. Probably did structural damage, and it cracked the windshield. It looks like, unless it's just rain on it. No, it didn't crack it. I can see it in a better picture. But I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't a big job to pull out. And hopefully
that'd be scary as hell.
But I'm glad he's alive. Let's all thank the good Lord that Flava Flav is going to be around to entertain us.
Flava Flav.
I like that guy. I like the clock that he wore.
His
I like
teeth.
His teeth. He wore the craziest stuff, and I love it. I dig it. I'm all about it.
Flava Flav. Thanks for this. Thanks for the story.
Yes. Thank you. That's a good one. He also says the U.S. Oh, okay. Let's go through. Big J21 says, "I'll be damned," and that might be about the Flava Flav that come right after King of Wakamundo.
Yeah, he's probably like, he's still alive. I know.
Oh, man, that's personal hero of mine. I mean, my favorite is when he did the crossovers with rock bands.
Oh, stop!
Because he would go wild. He was just a wild dude, and I'll bet he was a fun dude to hang out with. You know, if you didn't, you know, I mean, he did have
if you needed the time
for quite a while. The USA is Babylon, so that's what the Masons want to go against. Everything God, 100%. This is why our Holy Father is allowing it to later bring his wrath, and his true followers will be, you know, his God forever. I want you to think about that. We've heard about the rapture. Now, the rapture isn't spelled out in the Bible, but it's a modern day Christian apologists have thought of the rapture, and it's been around. I think it probably started with the Millerites. Maybe it might have different time, but that one day you wake up and poof, a percentage of the human population is gone. Now, they've made movies about this. Some of the movies are actually pretty good, starring that guy from Silver Spoons, I think, or whatever his name is. I
don't know which one you're talking about.
God, what's his name? Silver Spoons, that TV show when we were kids, where the anyways,
yeah, okay.
He has become a Christian apologist, and you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think it's Left Behind is the first one, Left Behind series. I read the books, or a couple of them, but it's like one day you're cruising along like you're flying in a jet. That's part of the situation, and the pilot is a Christian man, and the rapture happens. No more pilot.
Boom.
What if you lose pilot and co-pilot? What if? Simple.
See, I've never heard the rapture as like a sudden disappearance. I've always heard the rapture as like a series of catastrophic events that overwhelm the...
Well, the rapture is when the godlike are pulled into heaven.
Oh, okay.
They just disappear into heaven. The good people go into heaven. But what if that stewardess is handing you your third rum and coke? Senses a little dulled. Not quite on your game.
And all of a sudden...
Oops, she disappears, rum and coke all over your lap.
It's the rapture!
I'm telling you. Anyways, it's a little side note. But yes, go on, please.
So, Order of Skull and Bones, secret society founded at Yale. The founder, William Huntington Russell, was inspired by an occult society he'd visited in Germany, he claims.
Yeah. Bavaria is in modern day Germany, is it?
It is.
Throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Now, are we going to go over some notable members? I think we should.
His co-founder was Alfonso Taft,
Mm-hmm.
future Secretary of War under President Grant,
Mm-hmm.
and father of President William Howard Taft.
Yes.
Who would also be a member
yes.
of Skull and Bones.
Wasn't he also a person who sold other people into forced labor?
Yes.
Yes, he was. Okay.
Yes, he was a slave trader.
Oh, outstanding.
Yeah.
I say we needed more pirates back then. After the last week's show, I say we needed more pirates.
We need to release the wolves or, tigers or...
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm all about we need wolves eating us again. But we've gone over that before. We all know my thoughts on it. I think that we have become a species not ready to deal with this modern age we live in.
Agreed.
But go on.
Each year, 15 seniors at Yale are tapped to join Skull and Bones. I would argue that they're not your average seniors, that they're likely well connected.
Oh, family. I'm telling you, they're probably tapped long before they go to Yale by their family name. Now, the question is I've heard that they have to lay down in a coffin and have their way with themselves. But my question in the last year,
in a coffin, why?
Have they renamed it the Tubin? Tubin in the coffin.
I don't know.
Just wonder.
So it says that their names are published in Yale Rumpus, though what happens behind closed doors of the tomb, which is a windowless meeting space where the bonesmen gather twice a week, is complete secrecy. I mean, they could be in there playing Sudoku for all we know. We don't know. Members take an oath of secrecy. Graduate members are referred to as patriarchs. There's a couple pretty famous patriarchs.
Yeah.
While those undergoing initiation are called knights, and outsiders are barbarians. Listen, I would rather be a barbarian.
I think I show up to the party with that. Even if they let me in, I'd be like, yeah, he's a barbarian. I think that would be giving me credit. They would be like, oh, come here, caveman, Neanderthal.
So outside of President Taft, George Bush and his son George Bush.
George W.
George W. were also Skull and Bones members. The founder of Time Magazine, former Secretary of State, John Kerry.
John Kerry, who actually ran against W for president. We had a big fight down in during the election to secret society members running for our president, and we could argue easily that W could be easily counted as the worst president we've ever had.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and I think that's because memory's short. I still say Woodrow Wilson is the worst. William Henry Harrison obviously is the best president we've ever had.
Really?
Oh yeah, hands down the best.
Okay, so why?
Why?
Quick. What are your top 3 reasons?
Because he was only president for 32 days, then he died. He didn't have a chance to screw nothing up.
Well, okay. I was like, I don't know of anything he
Best
did.
President.
That's why.
Best president. He didn't screw anything up. And then after that, you've got Coolidge and Harding. The other, Coolidge and then Harding. Coolidge ascended to presidency after Harding died. He was his vice president. Those were both in the 1918 through 26, I believe. But yeah, William Henry Harrison, best president ever. Best president you could ask for. Didn't have a chance to
couldn't mess shit up.
Didn't have a chance to mess it up. Funny story, he gave an extra long speech in the rain. He's the oldest president at the time. Gave his inaugural speech in the rain without his coat on. He wanted to look He wanted to look virile
Yes.
because the newspapers came out.
Strong.
He was our last Whig president.
Oh.
He wanted to look virile, though. He wanted to look strong. And
Caught pneumonia and died?
caught pneumonia, slipped into a coma for 32 days, and then died.
Oh. So, outside of these guys, we've got Fortune 500 elites
Mm-hmm.
and tons of members of the CIA.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Huecomundo says they're called the Skull and Bones because they have Geronimo's skeleton.
I've heard that.
This is just evil as Masons. I don't think they're called that because they have a skeleton. I think they got a skeleton after because of the timelines. Geronimo was alive, if I remember, into the 1900s, if I remember. And they were started, of course, in the early 1800s. So yeah, but I have heard also that they do have Geronimo's skeleton, that is a part of their thing. And they may have other skeletons, maybe other notable skeletons.
So, following up on the Geronimo's skeleton, the Apache warrior, there's been a group of people that have claimed that they have lots of other historical artifacts.
Oh, I'm sure.
Stolen.
Well, they're rich people, they're wealthy, and also that might be a part of their ritual. You know, they dress in black, they, knock out a quick tubing in a coffin, and then they go steal something of note,
Yeah, like they're. It's rumored that they actually have the Cadillac driven by Al Capone.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of cool. I would never want to steal a skeleton, especially not Geronimo. Geronimo is such an interesting historical figure. He is a way cool historical figure. His bold, his brashness, his guile. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, into the 1900s, Pancho Villa was trying to get a hold of Geronimo.
Yeah.
So just an interesting guy, and an interesting time way back then. Al Capone's Cadillac, cool, but I think still in a human remains, I think you kind of crossed the line. It's kind of bad. Unless, I don't know. I just can't see a situation unless maybe like you're doing it as a sign of respect. I mean, like if they took it and they've got it in a gold, like they're
if
saying,
it was
look
being
at this,
disrespected and now
Yeah.
they are respecting it, so kind of like turning
Like-
the tables.
like
That's
they've
one
got
thing.
it in a gold sarcophagus with the big plaque that says, here lies Geronimo, here's the feats he did, and here's the things he did, and we're doing this as a homage to him, even though I think they should bring I believe it's the Apache
Yeah.
involved in it, but that would still be an interesting thing. But to get him, just to have him, yeah, you crossed into creepy land.
Yeah. Creepyville. Last one we're going to talk about tonight because they are endless. We could start one. We'd have to come up with a handshake, some secret rituals.
Oh, okay.
But you are a minister.
I am El Padre El Jared.
Yeah, we could start a secret society. I don't know if we'd be very good
Start
at
a
it,
church.
but we could.
Yes, I should learn, not learn Latin, but learn how to make it sound like I know Latin.
Or at least practice your pig Latin.
Oh,
You
sweet.
Do the whole thing in pig
Do
Latin.
the whole church in pig Latin. Ude te, iwe, re, a. I need to brush up on my pig
You
Latin.
got to brush up on
apparently.
your pig Latin.
Yeah.
Last one, Bilderberg.
Oh, snap.
The first Bilderberg meeting was in 1954 and held at the Hotel de Bilderberg in the
Yep.
Netherlands.
Yep.
That's where the organization gets its name.
Yep.
It was convened by Prince Bernard of the Netherlands.
Yep.
It was a gathering of powerful politicians, imagine that, from North America and Europe, designed to foster warmer relations
Mm-hmm. Wealthy elites.
between the two continents.
Yeah.
And it was really brought together among the fears of growing anti-Americanism in Europe.
Yes. And we got to understand they had just had the Bretton Woods Agreement. So Europe, a lot of people in Europe felt like they were handing their financial sovereignty over to the United States, and that scared a lot of people.
Yeah. So while not strictly considered a secret society like the Illuminati and Freemasons, there were a ton of high-profile attendees.
Mm-hmm.
Previous guests have included Bill Clinton, Margaret Thatcher, Angela Merkel, Tony Blair, Henry Kissinger.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very notable in there. Of course, a lot of media personalities show up in there. And I just want to thank the media for being so forthright and honest with us over the last few years. You've really done a service
Yes.
to the
Stand up.
nation and to the people. Yes.
Stand up, guys.
Especially Cuomo and
yes.
and Don Lemon.
You guys are fantastic.
Tubin, of course. Tubin gave us a whole new dialect to speak about. What should we say? Self-punishment.
While on air.
Yeah, or how could we, doing a gut inspection? I mean, there's a lot of ways, but Tubin, it's just so to the point and easy. But yeah, go on.
So attendees are selected for Bilderberg meetings by a dedicated international committee. Every year, they claim about 120 to 140 people are invited, with only about 2/3 coming from Europe and 1/3 from North America. The Washington Post reports that while backgrounds in government and politics are the most common, there's also academia, finance, and media.
Let's not forget the soothsayer, Alex Jones.
Was he invited?
No, but he stands out in front of it all the time.
Yes, he's always there, but...
Yeah, but I'm telling you, that guy, in the future, like if they were to dig up records, let's say humanity got destroyed and aliens came down and dug up records, they would think Alex Jones was a fortune teller.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Hands down.
His delivery.
He is right more than he is wrong.
I know. The problem is his delivery. He's so cacti-like.
He's very abrasive.
Yes.
And he gets very rambunctious, but
in his delivery.
I think that's the showmanship that draws me in.
I think he was on Joe Rogan, and it makes him sick. Like Joe Rogan's like, dude, you need to get a trainer and a nutritionist, man. Like you're sweating profusely. You're not sleeping at night.
He's heavy into it. And he's had other problems, marital problems, legal, financial.
Yeah.
All right. Bilderberg has been involved in the music industry till this day. Most of the artists would scream the name in intro and outro. Yeah. And then Alex Jones is a part of the club. And that is he conspiracy.
Yes. Is he a double agent?
I don't know.
Is he leaking the information that they want us to have?
Is he what loosens us up?
Yeah.
To hear it.
Yeah. Like, kind of.
Like when he comes out and says they're making human fetal chimeras, and then
they're making
4 months.
all the effing frogs gay.
Yeah, but 4 months later, you find out that.
They're actually.
Yahoo News reported, I think it was Penn State, they were taking aborted fetuses and growing mouse fur on these aborted fetus cells.
Yeah.
And that's a chimera. And so it makes you wonder. It's scary.
And most recently, he had this big spiel that they were going to require vaccination cards to vote.
Yeah.
And they're talking about it.
I think everyone saw that coming. Let's just look at, should we call it Alex Jones Hicks? You're talking Bill Hicks. I know, that's one of my favorite. You're talking about, let's talk about Twitter's greatest hits. So Dave Rubin is a commentator or whatever. He does op-ed pieces on YouTube and a couple other things. But he got kicked off. He got banned off Twitter for a time because he said, this was early this year, he said, one shot's not going to be enough. Are you guys ready for your second? Or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he got kicked off Twitter, and then less than a month, he's proved right.
Yeah.
I think it's time that Twitter takes the L.
Yeah.
Takes the L and says, okay, maybe we're not doing so good at this. Maybe we should stop.
Suck.
Yeah. And I think it's because I don't know, everyone that works in those spaces have a political leaning that lends them to not look at things with any kind of critical eye.
Yeah.
Right.
Political leaning and a privilege
Oh yeah.
that
Oh yeah.
blinds them to what's actually happening.
Yeah, King of Huecomundo says, you know that Alex Jones is Hicks, right? Yeah. Bill Hicks, man, that is one of my favorite conspiracies. Bill Hicks, I don't know if you know who he is.
I've heard
A
the
comedian, was a really dry comedian that OD'd. He was really close with another one of my favorite comedians, Doug Stanhope, and the way he delivered stuff was just, I mean, it was dry. It led you in, drew you in, and then he just dropped a hammer. And Alex Jones.
There is Huecomundo brings up the producer of InfoWars is Hicks' best friend and is now Alex Jones. There is a strange connection there that lends to this conspiracy theory.
Bill Hicks was still alive, still touring when Alex Jones got his start at Waco.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Alex Jones got his start before that. That's when Alex Jones first hit national notoriety. Was at Waco. Anyways, go on.
So the level of secrecy that surrounds these Bilderberg meetings has given rise to lots of rumors. The creation of the European Union being one of them. The invasion of Iraq. The bombing of Serbia. The conspiracy world has painted this Bilderberg meeting or this group as the New World Order.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I mean, there was some skull and bones that, went to him. And
I think there's a lot of crossover.
One of them
I would argue a lot of Freemasons have been to these. Yeah. A lot of Skull and Bones have been to these.
Well, and one of them said notoriously, we can see coming into view a new world order.
Yeah.
And that was George Bush Sr.
Yeah.
Who, at the time of JFK's death, if I remember correctly, was like number 3 in the CIA over operations, over the assassination side.
Yeah.
A lot to think about there.
So then we've got the Thule Society.
Thule Society.
Yeah, I've heard it pronounced lots of different ways. But it was a German occultist group known chiefly for being one of the sponsors of Deutsche Partei, which became the Nazi Party.
Yeah, National Socialist Workers of Germany Party.
Yeah.
Now, Thule was...
so it's from a mystical race is basically...
Well, yeah, what it is the Vikings had an old mythology that they had a utopia that was in the far north, the kingdom of Sharta or whatever it was the kingdom city of the kingdom of a utopia kingdom that was in the north that everyone said that was probably used like their politicians, much like our politicians used. Hey, look over there, how great they're doing. It was the same thing that the Vikings had a utopia that you could never go to, you couldn't achieve. It was a place that they would point to, Thule, and then when German nationalism started, usually close to around the late 1800s, right after they beat Napoleon, they kind of started getting national fervor, and they started looking towards Vikings as kind of their predecessors in their genealogy, and they wanted to idolize that, and then it just got carried away.
Yeah, so they still exist,
mm-hmm.
and are considered a pretty powerful secret society of occultists and mystics that are working still to discover ways to further the cause of this Nazi Germany, or this mystical type of clean society.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the secret society worshipped the sun as a sacred symbol of the Aryans.
Mm-hmm.
It also practiced Satan worship, which I'm kind of neither here nor there on Satan worship, because Satanists don't really worship Satan.
Well, yeah, the Church of Satan doesn't worship Satan.
They
what we've
worship
looked at-
self.
Yeah,
and they put self above everything else.
Yeah, extreme libertarianism.
Which I think that by when you read these articles and they say they practice Satan worship, I think that the nomenclature and that kind of dialogue back and forth messes up what Satan worship was.
What was that guy's name that started the Church of Satan again? Gosh dang, when we did that show on him.
Yes.
I mean,
he wore goat urine.
Well, he was.
Yeah.
He was just your basic.
He was a basement dwelling nerd.
But he started this thing with these rituals,
Yes.
and I think the rituals,
the Black Bible and everything,
drew people in and got people.
Anton
involved.
LaVey.
Yeah.
Yes.
And wasn't his real name like Howard Levy or something?
Yeah, it was really.
Yeah, but anyways, he did start as a showmanship to draw people in, and he prospered from it.
Sure, and was super weird.
Or was he? Did he just put on a show? Was it all showmanship?
I don't know. He wore goat urine as musk, and that was weird enough for me.
If it gets people to drop a couple extra shillings in those coffers,
I guess. No.
Speaking as a minister,
you smelled goat musk.
Hey,
Nothing.
lady goat musk is okay.
Nothing's worth
Boy
that.
goat musk, that a gag a maggot.
So the inner core of this society were all Satanists who practiced black magic, is what is said. So I wouldn't say that they were Satan worshipers, but kind of the more traditional Satanists.
Mm-hmm. Like on what's that cop show where they wore the sheep skin, the sheep wool leggings, and said the nighttime is the right time. That kind of
Satanists.
Okay.
They were not simply working men, but included scientists, doctors, professors, and a lot of men in high standing, as do all of these secret societies. See, we've got to meet people that are of higher standing if ours is going to be successful.
I'll have to work on that.
The members of this society were the foundation for the Nazi Party.
Mm-hmm.
The committee and the 40 original members of the New German Workers' Party were from the Thule Society.
Mm-hmm.
So in the Thule Society, Hitler found the beliefs that were to lead him to power. And, I mean, obviously we know the devastating effect that had on the world. Dietrich Eckart was a dedicated Satanist and co-founder of both the Nazi Party and the Thule Society. So, historians will say there's no connection, and I think that it's a responsible approach to take if you're in a position of authority to say there really is no proven connection. However, I would argue that any society, club, group that maintains this level of secrecy and has this much power all in one room and connections, that it is likely that there are some bad dealings going on in there.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's intentional or if it is just part of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and it might be.
Because we have to understand the type of people that rise to that level of power.
That's true. Is it all sociopaths, or is it that
Yes.
sociopaths? I mean, we do know that sociopaths generally rise to the highest levels of corporate and government leadership.
Yes, because they're willing to do what others are not.
Yes, they are.
And you put a group of them together and give them an opportunity to plan.
Well, and they may automatically, because they're part of a secret society, think they're better.
Oh yes, because of the privilege of being invited into that, it adds another level of ego.
I wonder if Anthony Fauci is a part of a secret society.
100%.
That's something to dig into.
100%. Guaranteed, no questions asked.
Yeah, that is. Ooh.
So, secret societies.
Yep.
I believe that
We do need to.
there's no need for secrecy if everything is copacetic.
Well, true. Unless, of course, you just like having secrets. I mean, let's look at Little Rascals. They had
No
a
girls
clubhouse.
allowed.
No girls allowed. It was highly intelligent. So King of Wakamundo. Look at Alex Jones 97. There's two different people, a skinny Alex Jones and a fat Alex Jones, in less than 6 months.
Maybe he likes his tacos.
It's
King of
clearly
Wakamundo. I like tacos.
It's clearly two different people. Even the old 97 Alex had a country accent. I'm not saying you're wrong, because there is a lot of validity to what you say. I mean, Bill Hicks always wore a hat and sunglasses to kind of shade himself, and then Alex Jones wouldn't. And then you would see, but if you look at their lower face, I mean, there's a lot of similarities there.
So there's a series that I've been watching. It's called Celebrities in the Same Font.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how alike. Do you think they do any picture adjustment at all to get both? We'd have to pull up originals. Now, one secret society that is absolutely my favorite is
Okay.
Om Shinrikyo.
Say it again.
Om Shinrikyo.
Isn't that what you say when you sit Indian style? Om Shirinkyo.
Remember the group that let loose the nerve agent in Japan
Yes.
on the subway?
Yes.
Now, if you dig into Om Shinrikyo, that is hands down the wildest.
How do you get in? Are they wealthy?
A lot of members were wealthy. A lot of members,
Aye.
you know, one thing they had is they had a lot of nuclear scientists. They were buying military equipment, and there's thoughts that, when I say military equipment, I'm saying attack helicopters. And there's thoughts that they were trying to build a nuclear device. Wakamundo says, I was a big Bill Hicks fan as a kid. I slipped into Pig Latin.
You did.
I'm telling you, my
It's getting
priesthood
better.
is coming true. I noticed some things that that Hicks does, plus Alex Jones has been accepting awards that are for Bill Hicks. Really? Now that's something that might have to be our next show. Alex Hicks, Bill Jones.
The remix.
That would be fun. But yeah, Shinrikyo, I think we should do a full show on it. That they are hands down the wildest one. I mean, they went like a flash in the pan, committed terrorist attacks. They had this weird, the leader of it was like this blind monk. It was all wild, like a blind orphan started this. I'm telling you, it is wild.
So, in closing, the cloak and dagger nature of these societies is what makes them so intriguing. And if you really want to get notoriety, just keep a secret.
Hey,
Openly keep a secret.
and I am
Because they're really bad at being secret societies because we know about them.
I'm taking an applications now and name application. You guys have any thoughts on names for my new cult/secret society? Reach out to me. Let me know, because I think we.
And if it translated easily into Pig Latin, even better.
The Church of the Holy Socks. It could be a lot. I mean, all socks have holes. They have to, otherwise you can't get your feet in. But anyways, we're gonna have to really come up with this. I think I could go with
And we got to work on some handshakes.
get some purple robes.
Cloaks.
Oh, definitely cloaks. Symbolism, we got to come up with that. What if we went different? Now, the early Christians in Rome, that sign of the fish, that was a Christian.
What if we just call it the secret society?
The-
And then we have no secrets.
Oh, break the internet. Well, that fish symbol, the fish that you see on people's
Yeah.
cars,
What
was-
would Jesus do, fish?
that was a secret society of Christianity in ancient Rome.
The fish?
Yeah, you'd walk up to another Christian, and you would use with your toe. You would make that half moon,
Uh-huh.
and then the other guy would finish it.
Oh,
So, Christianity started as a secret society.
100%. Still is.
I don't.
Still is very
Depends
much.
on your Church of Christianity. I mean, some of them let it all hang out.
It
Little too
depends
much in
on
the
your
open.
level of involvement.
Yes.
How much you know.
But anyways, thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll be back next week.
Not sure what we're covering yet. We're going to ride by the seat of our pants.
That's what we've been doing all year so far. But I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thoughts and prayers with Tonga again. That's a horrible situation. Just the economic damage that something like that can cause. I hope they have a speedy recovery.
My prayers are with the foam guy.
With the what?
The foam guy.
The one that got his grundle pierced? Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I mean, he gets to sit down to pee now.
it's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's right, dude. Pees like a lady.
The song. It's a remix.
All right, but you guys have
Have
a
a great week.
wonderful week. Be safe. Everything else.